So this is the exact room where I served my 1 year of house arrest. This is my mom and dad's house. This was my bedroom. And essentially what happened was I got arrested and they gave me 10 years probation, 1 year house arrest. And I remember, yes, I had the fucking, the ankle monitor. I had the ankle monitor. I remember charging it, like there was a cord right here, and I remember sitting on this bed and charging it. And at that time, I was just so depressed. Like all my friends were, I was 22 at the time. All my friends were graduating college. They were getting consulting jobs. They were on the road, traveling, making $70,000, $80,000 a year. And I was back at my mom's place with no money, with no future, an absolute loser. And I remember just waking up, beating the shit out of my meat. Like literally, this is the same room where I beat my meat 9 times a day on this bed, exactly like this. And I remember just being so depressed, just ordering. I don't know if they had Uber Eats back then, but I remember ordering like a bunch of delivery food, like Chinese food, fucking chicken wings, and just like stuffing my face and just trying to like have any sort of dopamine to feel alive or happy. And I did that for probably a couple months. And I remember part of my sentence was that I had to go to bi-weekly therapy. So I had to literally, during the day, at some point, I had to drive to this old white lady on Druid Hills, and I'd have to sit there and talk to her for an hour a day every 2 weeks. And I learned a lot of things then. And that's usually, and I'll say like this year of being on house arrest is where I really learned how to slow down, how to appreciate life, how to get in control of my mind. Like when I was on house arrest, talking to the therapist and just being in this place away from my friends, away from partying, away from any distractions, this is where I learned all the mental stuff that I have now and all the tools that I have mentally. This is where I acquired them. And it's actually, what's crazy is this is the exact same room where I built my first Shopify store. When I was coming up, I remember just listening to, like just trying to get better and trying to get out of this depressed stage. So I remember listening to a bunch of podcasts, listening to a bunch of other entrepreneurs. At the time, there was a podcast, Short Story Long. So this exact room is where I opened up my laptop, got on Shopify, and started teaching myself Photoshop, Illustrator. I started designing my own Shopify store. And it was in this stage where it was kind of like a prison. It was kind of like a jail, but it was my mom's house. But yeah, this is the room. Like, y'all see it. And it doesn't look that much different. Like, it's literally used to look like this. Like, it used to be very shitty like this. I didn't have nothing. I didn't have no furniture. It's crazy to like come back here and see everything. Like, I remember the closets here. So crazy. Look, they even have the suits from when I used to work at the bank. They even have the fucking polos. The polos from when I used to work at the country club. That's crazy. But here you go. See? This is when I used to work at the country club. They would make me fucking wear this polo and serve out drinks and shit and be on the golf course. But yeah, this is the room, man. This is the room where house arrest started, and Superline of what it is today. This is where it really started, is a little bit of, beating your meat 9 times, 12-piece lemon pepper wings, and a laptop. That's where it started. This is the room. It's crazy to come back here. So this is where it first started for me. This was my first real job. I used to work at that country club over there. I worked there for about 2 years. I started as a busser, a waiter, did a little bit of bartending, but this parking lot right here is where I started my trapping career. Because this is like a private neighborhood, a gated neighborhood, there's no cops here, no one can get inside of here. So literally I would call people in, and in the middle of my shift, I would run out to my car and I would serve out grams, dime bags, 8s, 7s, ounces. This is where it all started for me. I remember just being young and being 18 at the time. My first year, I didn't go to college. I opted out to go work. And at that time, like nobody was doing that. I was like one of the first people to do that. And it was really looked as like, you're kind of like a failure, right? They're like, oh, you're giving up on your future. Instead of going to college, you're fucking working a shitty 9 to 5, right? I just remember being like so hungry, wanting to make money, wanting to grow, and wanting to prove everybody wrong. Everyone was going to school and everybody was broke, but I was over here making, I think I was making like $15 an hour. And $15 an hour back then was like $25 an hour today. So I was making $15 an hour, and then I was making a couple $100 a week just selling weed out of this parking lot. And for me, the weed was actually just a way for me to smoke for free. That's how I started, because I liked smoking and I didn't want to pay for weed. So I would just buy an ounce and then I would break half of it down and I could smoke for free. And then I was like, well, how much for 2 ounces? How much for 3 ounces? And then I started understanding that, hey, if I buy a pound and I break it down, all of a sudden, like, I can actually make money. So this is where it started for me. This is everything. Like, I used to work here 5-6 days a week. I remember I used to have morning shifts. I used to have night shifts. I used to have weddings here. I used to work the dinner shifts. I used to work the breakfast shifts. Like, this parking lot right here, I done probably sold 50 pounds, 100 pounds, all just broken down gram by gram in this parking lot right here. And the crazy thing is if you work in the restaurant industry, you know everyone in the restaurant industry is a fucking degen. So not only was I selling to the kids that lived in here, I was selling to all the fucking staff, the fucking cooks, the waiters, the managers. Everyone was fucking buying their weed from me here. And this was just a good place for me to set up. And I remember even in my car, I had a 4Runner where I crack it open, I could put 2 zips in there. So I concocted this thing in the car where I could open it up and I could fit 2 zips in a scale in there, and I would just weigh shit out. And I remember I didn't even want Ziploc bags in my car because that shit was burnt out. So I'll go to Chipotle, get a stack of fucking napkins for free. And anytime you bought a fucking eighth or a gram from me, you would know you got it from me because you wouldn't get a Ziploc bag. I'd put it inside of a fucking napkin and roll it up and give it to you. But yeah, it's crazy because this is exactly where it all started for me, was this parking lot. Crazy. From me working at the country club, I found a connection and I ended up working at the bank. And while my career grew, my weed selling business also grew. What happened was I was picking up from one plug. He ended up getting arrested and his plug needed some help. So I got introduced to his plug. And this is when the transition started to happen from I'm just making $15 an hour to I'm just selling eighths and dime bags and grams to, okay, now I'm picking up like 2 to 3 pounds a week, and now that's going to 2 to 3 pounds a week, and now that's going to like 5 pounds a week. And eventually I got to going anywhere from like, I think 5 to 10 pounds a week I was selling. And I was also working at the bank. So I went from making like $15 an hour to making $20 an hour. And the main thing that happened was when I was working at the bank, I really started to understand how money moved, because I was a personal banker. I was selling bank accounts, but I was also understanding like, hey, if you deposit more than $10,000 cash, they're gonna have you fill out this form. If you get a money order for more than $3,000, they're gonna make you fill out this form. If the teller thinks that you're doing some suspicious illegal activity, they're gonna fill out this form. So that banking knowledge actually helped me a lot when it came to selling weed, because how it works is somebody will bring the weed from LA to Atlanta. You get the money in Atlanta, but eventually you got to take the money from Atlanta back to LA. And that's where working at the bank, my plug recognized that I had all these skills, I knew these things, and that's why I was able to actually not only help him sell the weed here, but I was actually helping him move the money back to LA. It was just a crazy time. Like, I just remember like when I started working here, that's when I finally got to move out of my mom's house. I got my own apartment. I think I was 20 at the time, 21 at the time. So a lot of my friends that were in college, that were living broke as fuck, had to ask their mom and dad for money, are now seeing me kind of balling out a little bit, because they're like, oh, Eric got his own apartment, it's in the city, he has his own car, he has his own setup, and he's doing all this by himself. And this is where, you know, selling dime bags and eighths goes to like, okay, now I'm at the real plug, and now I'm like wholesaling shit, and now I'm like making real money. Now from working at the bank, I started gaining my trust a lot more, and he was like, why don't you just quit your job and just come work for me full time? And that's when I really started blowing up, because not only was I wholesaling to my own customers and having my own clientele, I essentially started running his entire operation for him. So I was picking up the weight, I was taking it to the safe house, I was meeting his clientele, taking the money, and the operation went from like me just selling 5 to 10 pounds a week to doing like 100 to 200 pounds a month. Obviously not all of that was me. Again, I was just an employee for somebody else, and I was doing my stuff on the side. The reason why I'm in a parking lot is because the first time I really took the jump was in a parking lot just like this. I literally had to wake up one day, meet some random dude with the 18-wheeler in a parking lot just like this in broad daylight, and I had to fit 100 pounds into my 4Runner. And the craziest part is that during that process, one of the boxes would not fit into the car. So mind you, I'm like a 20-year-old kid, I'm fucking shaking my ass off because I'm so scared shitless. I'm doing something illegal in broad daylight, and the box would not fit. And it's not like I can open the box and throw the rest of the remainder in there. It's like, it's filled with pounds of weed. It's illegal shit. It was a funny story, and I just remember like having to squeeze that shit in and like kind of like fuck up the box and push it in there. Now I'm like fucking El Chapo. I'm touching, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars every week in cash. I'm moving all this around. I'm doing all this. At this point, I have 3 apartments. So I have one where I live in. I have one where it's a safe house where we keep the fucking shit. And then we have one trap house where we actually do the transactions. This is the part of the story where cue the Narcos music, cue the fucking BMF shit. This is where I felt like I was BMF. I had a shoebox, a Nike box full of like $100,000 cash. I was living my life, and this is where at 21 I felt like, dude, I fucking made it. Like 21, $100,000 cash, making $1,000 a day selling weed. You can't tell me nothing. So this portion of the story is where I started getting young, reckless, and stupid. It's now a Chick-fil-A, but this used to be a bar that I used to frequent. And I remember doing all of this stuff. I couldn't tell nobody. So my mom didn't know what I was doing. My closest friends didn't know what I was doing. I was literally essentially living a double life, and I was kind of scared shitless because I didn't want to go to jail. As you can see, I'm not a gangbanger. I'm not a thug. I don't belong in a jail. I'm a fucking dweeb. I'm a square bear just doing illegal shit to make quick money. I was just deathly afraid of getting caught. So I remember just living this double life and feeling very lost and empty. And the only way I could find any sort of comfort or any sort of like belongingness was to just drown myself in alcohol. I was doing a bunch of cocaine. I was fucking partying a lot because I'd already made the money. I'd already reached these goals. I couldn't share it with anybody. I couldn't tell anybody what I was doing. So what I was doing was I was just going to the bars. I was going to strip clubs, and I was spending a lot of money and a lot of time there. And I just remember being lost, and just, this is where I started getting reckless. Like, you know, when you watch Narcos, like people just start making a lot of money and start getting reckless. This is where I was starting to get reckless. I had everything I wanted materialistically. I was making $1,000 a day. I was so fucking young. I was literally 21. Imagine being 21, and instead of going to a bar and getting a drink, you're going to a bar, buying everyone drinks, and then going to the strip club after and spending $2,000, $3,000. That's what I was at 21. I was just so out of control, out of my mind, doing a bunch of coke and just feeling very, very lost. And that recklessness and that lack of care and that carelessness is what ended up ultimately getting me in trouble and getting me caught. So right behind me is 85 connection to 316. If you're from Atlanta, if you're from Georgia, you know this is how you get to Athens, Georgia. So essentially what happened was, one of the guys that I was selling to, a little frat boy, he ended up getting in trouble, and then he ended up setting me up. So right down this highway over there is where I got set up. He called me one day, was like, yo, I need 7 pounds. Normally I had him meet me up, but again, I was reckless, I was careless, I was spending a lot of money at the strip clubs. I was thirsty for money, I was thirsty to make this money. So he was like, I got a guy, he needs 7 pounds. So I was like, all right, fuck it, like I need to re-up anyways, I need to make money anyways. So normally I wasn't ever meeting people up, I was making them come to me, and I was controlling the entire transaction. But with this time, again, I was just fucking coked out, strung out, just on drugs, a junkie, and I made the mistake. I ended up driving to go meet him, and I went from Atlanta all the way down to 316, and right as I'm about to get onto the 316 connector, whoop, cops pull me over. And this is the part of the story where I get arrested. I got arrested. I don't know if it was the feds, but it was like a regular cop. They take me to this room. There's a guy in a fucking Harley Davidson cutoff and some jean jorts, like just looking like the most biker motherfucker in the world. Like if you ever played like a game like Who's the Fed, this guy looked like the Fed, right? And he was like getting me to sign this paper. He gave me this sheet of paper, didn't say nothing, and tried to get me to sign it. I'll look over the paper. It's essentially like admitting all guilt and saying that in a court of law that I did everything that I got caught with. So I ended up telling him like, bro, I'm not signing nothing with no lawyers. So I ended up doing a week in jail. And my dad ended up bailing me out. But this is the part of the story where shit turns left. No drug dealer ever makes it. So this is where I got knocked out on, I got snitched on, and I got in trouble. So while I was on house arrest, they allowed me to leave the house 6 days a week from 9 to 5. And that's when my dad was like, why don't you come work for me? Why don't you work in the warehouse and sell these shitty shirts? When I started working there, I hated it. I didn't want to sell what he was selling. So what I did is this space right here, it's full of boxes. But I used to have 2 heat press setups. I used to have one right here. I had a compressor right here. And then I had another heat press setup in this room right here. And literally what I did is me and Andy were heat press vinyl trap box logo t-shirts, drip box logo t-shirts, and we were selling those to retail stores. During that year, like while I was beating my meat and eating chicken wings and being depressed, like I was trying to figure it out. So I was building my own Shopify store, but eventually the thing that was making me money was heat pressing in this warehouse. And Let me tell you something about Georgia heat. In the summertime, this motherfucker would be 90 degrees, but it would feel so wet and humid that me and Andy would be literally sweating printing t-shirts all day, because you're also next to a heat press that's 300 degrees. So for about 2 years, me and Andy sat in this warehouse and we printed trap logo, drip logo, like whatever generic fucking thing was trending, we made it into a shirt and we were selling them to retail stores for 2 years. And during that time, my dad was like, why don't you sell blanks? Like, you already have learned how to print t-shirts, you already try to start your brand, why don't you sell blank t-shirts? So I imported my first container of regular blank t-shirts, and at the time, Next Level was like the craziest thing. It was the 3001C, the Next Level and Bella Canvas. They had this ring spun cotton shirt. So I made my own version of that, and the problem is nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew about blank shirts that I was selling them, so I still couldn't sell them. So I imported a whole container of shirts. I couldn't sell them, so for another year, I essentially was offering custom prints, but the catch was, I'll give you the cheapest price, but you gotta print it on my blanks. And that's what I did for another year, and that's literally like the evolution of Superline. Was we started from printing t-shirts. That's the craziest thing. And it was literally in this room right here, and then the other spot was where these boxes were. We had a little setup right here, and then over here on this side we had these columns and these shelves, and that's where we had the boxes of shirts. And me and Andy, for hours, I'm talking hours, years, we would just come in here and we would just print t-shirts every day. Andy, tell the people about the printing t-shirt days. How many shirts did we print?
Average at least 500 to 1,000
a day
between us.
It was a day, and we did that for how many years? Like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And it was hot as fuck back there, remember?
Summertime, no AC, just a big ass fan.
Yeah.
90, 80 degrees.
How many Joe Rogan and Andrew Schultz podcasts did we run through? Hundreds, like thousands. Like, we would come in.
A lot of hours.
On
podcasts.
And then when did we transition from selling printing on shirts to like selling blanks and creating a store?
Probably 5 years into.
It was like gradual, right?
Yeah,
I don't think it was like a one day we took off and blew up. I think it was like a slow and steady, like.
It took at least 2 years to figure it out.
We did shirts first. Nobody bought the shirts. Then we did hoodies and joggers. Some people were kind of buying them. And then we did tech fleece,
dad caps,
bucket caps. A lot of you guys see it and think like, oh, they blew up overnight. It's like, no, we were doing this shit for years. It was even to the point where when we first started, we weren't even working the store. Remember, it was my parents were working the store, and we would just put our inventory in here, and me and Andy would just go print all day. And then there was one point where, like, remember I told you, I was like, let's get rid of the print business. Yeah. And I was like, let's just focus on this, because the store started getting crazy.
Mr. Lee and Ms. Lee was not having it. They wanted us printing shirts.
Yeah. They wanted us printing shirts, but there was a point in time where the social media started taking off, and by taking off, I mean we was getting like 30 likes versus 0 likes.
10K followers was like our goal.
Yes.
At one point when we started, we just wanted 10,000 followers. That's it.
Yeah.
But now, then it became 50, then it became 100.
Yeah, but we started off like really small, but probably around 10,000 followers is when we were like, yo, it's not worth it for us to print shirts no more. Let's go back and let's focus on doing the store.
And we had to persuade them that
it didn't work. And before we had like, I mean, right now I know the floors are shitty, but before we had really shitty, like ugly green throw up floors. And then on this side over here, we didn't even have, like, this side wasn't even open. It was only this one half, right? And we didn't even have POS systems. We didn't have barcodes. We didn't have none of this shit. We was literally paper and pen everything. We were paper and penning everything. We didn't have no inventory system. Yeah, it was literally like a slow burn, but that's the store now. The store now, it runs on its own. We have employees. We have an online shipping team. We have crazier products. Like before, I was cooking up all the products. Now we have a guy whose job is 100%. His only job is to make product. Now we have somebody whose only job is to ship out orders, pick orders. We didn't have any of the system. You know, we didn't have barcodes. We didn't have any of these crazy products. We didn't have any of this. It literally was like a day-by-day, step-by-step process. Back then, all of these shelves, they weren't filled with like these are cool products, you know, but back then it wasn't filled with this. It was literally just filled with junk. Like when I tell you junk, like only God can judge me shirts, bootleg Jordan 23 shirts, like just terrible shit. And it was all filled back here. So we had to liquidate all of that, we had to go in and reinvest into good inventory, new inventory, you know, even little improvements like this. Like in the summertime, my parents didn't want to turn on the AC. So we didn't even have shit like this. But when I started turning on the AC, they started bitching about the warehouse thing coming in. So I had to like even go to Uline and invest in stuff like this. So like literally everything you see, it wasn't like a overnight thing. It was like a day by day thing. Like we would have one problem. It was too hot in the store. Customers didn't want to shop. So then we had to turn on the AC. Well, then when we turn on the AC, because of the warehouse keep going back and forth, like we had to keep shutting this door and we would fight about it. So then we had to invest in this. So it was literally like a step-by-step process. It was never like a one-time overnight thing. And then this part, like this is actually, what's crazy is this was actually supposed to be the first iteration of the Superline store. So my parents were running their business and they didn't want to give up their business. So this place right here was like an empty office space. And I convinced my dad to give it to me or like let me use it. And this was supposed to be the store. So we had the big ass table here and we were supposed to run back and forth and get the stuff. Like this was supposed to be the first Superline store. These walls, I painted these walls. Like literally I hand painted every single wall. And this was supposed to be the first store. But what happened was like the business started taking off. It didn't really work. So we moved it over there. We just kind of took over their space. And then we started using this place as more of like for photo shoots. So as you can see, we got the alien bee lights. And then what's crazy is as the business grew, this actually used to be where the corporate people used to work. So like the product guy that you see, he used to work here. Vivek that does the social media, and run the Superline network, he used to work here. Like, and they called this the black hole. They used to hate working here. They hated this place. And that was only like a year ago, which is crazy. It's literally only a year ago. But yeah, this place used to be like that. Now this place is meant for like photo shoots. And I think we're gonna build out a set here for like a podcast. But it's just crazy how just the evolution of like even just trapping grams out of the parking lot to like getting to here. So this past year, the business has been blowing up, doing really good. We actually expanded into this space over here. So this wasn't our space, but we were doing too much in sales. We had too much product coming in, not enough warehouse space. So we expanded to this whole side. So now this year, I think probably like August of last year, we got into this place. So this is like a whole new side of the building. We have a new office now. So on this side is essentially the corporate office for all of Superline. So this is where the product guy works. This is where the network team works. This is where we're cranking out the memes. This is where we're editing content. This is where we're taking like network meetings. As you can see, it's still very much an Asian-owned business. I didn't install this. I have better taste in this. This was here from the previous tenant. I'm just too cheap to change it out. I know it looks like shit, but it is what it is. All of this stuff too, my dad renovated all this. He did the hardwood, he painted it. And what's crazy is today's Friday, we have remote work days. Like I would have never thought that this company would have a fucking remote work day, but we do have remote work days. So this is where the network guys work. So over here, this is Daddy Vivek, this is Sam. So Sam does all the YouTube videos, Vivek does all the corporate meetings and all the brand deals. The guys used to work here, but I don't think they like this table. But yeah, remember in the other room, I'll show you the black room. This was the table where we were supposed to be checking customers out with. My dad built this table from scratch. This space now is where most of the guys work. They like working here. They like putting up their laptops, all working together, collaborating. This section over here, we're building out a set for podcasts and videos that we're doing. This room right here is where we take corporate meetings, like any Zoom calls and stuff. Or we just started a new YouTube channel called The Playbook. So this is where this is being shot at. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy to go from like being in a fucking trapping out grams at the fucking parking lot to like running this business and owning this business is crazy. The reason why I have this up here is because at the end of the day, you gotta put your fucking nuts on the line. You know what I'm saying? If you wanna do something great, if you wanna do something amazing, you have to take risks. Like even when I was fucking selling weed and doing all that crazy shit and picking up pounds from Walmart, I was taking risks. Even not going to college and dropping out of college, that was taking a risk. When everyone else was going to this safe path and this secure path, I took the path that most people didn't want to take, and it was very risky. But ultimately, like for my career and my life, like the one thing I've learned is like, you gotta let your nuts hang. You gotta put your nuts on the line, because that's what's gonna, you know, you're not gonna get crazy rewards if you don't take risks. And one of the main things about this channel I wanna show you guys is like, look, I'm not a fucking smart guy. I'm not a Harvard educated person. I'm not a fucking social media expert. I'm literally a fucking idiot. Like I'm literally a kid that just wanted to make it, was willing to do whatever to make it, made a lot of mistakes, made a lot of failures, and I'm here today. I'm still gonna make mistakes, I'm still gonna fail, but the whole point of this channel is to show you guys that it is really possible and like I'm just a regular fucking dude. Like literally, I beat my meat 9 times a day. Like I got arrested, I'm a convicted felon, I dropped out of college. I'm literally the dumbest guy in the world. But I own this business that's doing $10 million a year. And it just goes to show you guys that you don't have to be the smartest, you don't have to be the best looking, you don't have to be the most talented, you just gotta be the most hungry, and you just gotta work the hardest. I think that's my main specialty, is that I'm not really talented at anything, I'm just fucking obsessed, and I'm just fucking crazy, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes, you know? That's what got me here, is that every single time that I got knocked down, every single time I faced some sort of failure in life, I just never quit. And that's the difference between me and everyone else, is that I don't quit. So if there's anything for you to get out of this video, it's that whatever your dream is, you wanna be a fucking actor, you wanna be a rapper, you wanna fucking sell Subway sandwiches, you wanna fucking sell t-shirts, you wanna sell cars, you wanna sell watches, whatever the fuck you wanna do in this world, you can do it. Don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do it. Just remember, as long as you keep trying, you keep learning, and you keep getting better, it's just gonna work out for you guys. Eric Lee, that transparent look into my life. That's gonna wrap up how I went from being a drug dealer to owning a $10 million a year business. Now, hopefully this shit works. In about 5 to 10 years, I can make another video how I went from a $10 million business a year owner to a $100 million business a year owner. Hopefully. If I don't make it, I'm gonna keep trying until I do make it.